Hello. Hi. So my name is Han. I think you have an opposition leader here in Taiwan who's called Han. Is that right? Isn't there the guy from the south? Isn't he Han as well? Yeah. Thank you for being here all. So today we heard some of the hard lifting that Vitalik and the team are doing on the protocol level. We heard some other talks about ICOs and so on. This time, I think we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to actually set up a company, a real-world company, whilst we're here together. And so we've built basically a way for people to what we call spin up legal containers at the push of a button. So I have 8 slides or so, and then we're going to run a little demo. Let me just get my slides open here. Okay. So a little bit about ourselves. So I've kind of been around from the early days of Ethereum, and as you can see, I'm a bit older than most of you here. And we have been helping a lot of people in the crypto and the blockchain space to set up legal entities. And so our main proposition is basically that we help you incorporate companies. And why the need to still incorporate companies? Because we feel like people realize that when they start with a project, very soon they discover that actually there is no way of continuing to work just informally without having the protection of limited liability. Because ultimately, if you do stuff in the real world, you will incur liabilities, and you better make sure you incorporate somewhere. You still need that tangent, basically, with a real-world jurisdiction. So we're doing this in a number of jurisdictions. We're doing this in Hong Kong, Singapore, United States, the UK, some of the offshores like Cayman Islands. We do a lot of ICO work, STO work out of Cayman Islands. And so over summer, a couple of months ago, actually, we started to think, hey, this is a big, boring market. It's a lot of analog work and filing and so on. Isn't there a way to compress the time and the cost of setting up a legal entity? And so it very much overlaps, I think, with some of the work that Aragon is doing. One of the sponsors today we'll hear about later, and also Colony. And we like both a lot in that they help to layer the creation of an organization with technology and with blockchain. You want to think about autonomous as that first mile bridge towards an entity that lives on blockchain. We actually concern ourselves about making it easier to incorporate a real-world entity that is licensed somewhere, or at least registered somewhere. And so we have been spending some time over the last months trying to figure out, why can't we this whole legal thing where we're still working with share certificates in paper form and so on, why can't we make that a lot cheaper? Why hasn't technology actually reached that industry yet? And so then you actually discover that there's just blockers. There's real-world blockers in the way. And so one blocker is, I think, a blocker that we all encounter every day. It's called inertia. People are used to do things in a certain way, and they're a bit afraid of new technology, and they kind of go, oh, but what if these high priests of the legal profession are not longer involved? Will this still be a legally valid entity if we do this on blockchain? And then the second blocker you quickly encounter, and anybody doing stuff in DeFi will experience that as well, is that you often have vested interest in monopolies. In the case of company incorporation, I'm not familiar with Taiwan, for instance, but I'm pretty sure that you too have a government-sanctioned registry where you have to file for the incorporation of a company. It's the same in the United States, it's the same in Hong Kong, it's the same in Cayman Islands, it's the same in Singapore. You have these monopolies from a state that basically says, if you want a birth certificate for your company, the only entity that can issue that is a government-sanctioned entity. So how do you get around those blockers? How can you actually compress both the time to incorporate and the cost of incorporation? And I kind of think that we cracked it. And the way we cracked it, I've been thinking about an analogy, and I think the best analogy is in vitro fertilization. It's basically test tube babies. So what we came up with is a smart contract cascade where via, forgive me the word, but the insemination of a certain amount of cryptocurrency, in this case DAI, you let the baby grow in the test tube, and the baby is basically the company. And so you make it easier for people to spin up a real entity. So the sequence would be that, for instance, Vitalik, I can look over there, that Vitalik were to send one DAI, so the equivalent of $1 to a smart contract. In this case, it's called autocorp.eth via the name server. That smart contract is gonna generate a new smart contract that contains the operating agreement of a new LLC. In this case, this would be an LLC in Delaware. Okay, and so what we're actually doing here is we are replicating the due process that has to be followed in the real world, in the analog world, in order to form a company, but we're compressing the time and the cost of doing so. So this is basically the moment where it can all go wrong, because I'm going to try to demo this to you. And just to make sure that it works faster, we have done this on Robston for now. Okay. You see, as I said, this is typically where it goes wrong. I see I'm not connected to... I'm on Crosslink Taiwan, so... Which one? Okay. Okay. Close your eyes, guys. Okay, there we go. So basically, the first thing you have to do is the same with babies. You need to give them a name. So you need to come up with a name for your company. If you have a project, anybody of you who wants to spin up a company will probably first start with a name. So what we've done is we built a very simple API with a database of names of Delaware LLCs in the United States. By the way, Delaware is the biggest jurisdiction in the world. 500 million companies a year are being set up in Delaware. And so let's say we were to choose a name that you wanted to call your company Citibank. We'll check if it's available, and guess what? It's not available, because there is a company called Citibank LLC already in Delaware. But say we wanted to call our company something else, for instance, Water Bottle, Water Bottle LLC, because you're selling water bottles. Good news. That company is actually available. Is this visible at all? Because I know it's a little bit dark. I can zoom in a little bit. But the short of the story is that you get a confirmation that the name is available. So you can basically call your baby Water Bottle. What do you do next? Next, you're going to have to connect your MetaMask. Soon you'll be able to work also with your hardware wallets and so on. So we're connecting MetaMask here. So far, so standard. This is not what it should be doing. Okay, this is already connected. It is effectively going wrong. One second, guys. This thing is playing up a little bit here. Okay, so we're doing this again. Water Bottle is still available. By the way, I don't know if you can see, but you actually immediately get a registered address in Delaware. So that's a service that we provide, because the only requirement you have to incorporate in Delaware is that you actually have a registered address there. This is not stable here. I think it's the internet connection. So let me go back to... We did test this before. It worked all right. And it seems the internet is playing up. Okay. So I'm back on the other Wi-Fi now. Okay, we do that again. I apologize. It's always good that we can blame it on the internet, but I do actually think it is the internet. But now it seems to be fine. Not sure. Nope. It seems like it's keeping on. Let me do something here. Try this once more, guys, and if not, I'll just walk you through it. It's one of these things. It seems like my browser keeps on refreshing, right? Somehow. Which one? Turn the shield down. Thanks, Yao. Let's see. No, I don't think it's going to do it. Well, this is obviously a bit embarrassing, but we did try this before. I'm not quite sure what's going on. It seems everything is falling apart. But essentially, let me just walk you through the sequence. What would happen here is that you would connect your MetaMask. You would basically, this is basically the sequence, you would basically send that DAI transaction to the autocorp.eth smart contract. The autocorp.eth smart contract is basically that incubator that spins up a new smart contract, and that new smart contract is effectively the operating agreement of your company. So the first owner of the company, and this is probably the key legal breakthrough that we have achieved after many back and forths with the council in the United States, the key legal breakthrough is that a company doesn't have to necessarily be owned by a physical person. We have it actually confirmed that you can own a company through a wallet, a cryptographic wallet that you control. And so the way you manage to compress the time of spinning up a company is by having, instead of an owner sign some certificate of formation of an LLC, that it is by signing the transaction that you control a wallet that controls the smart contract for the company. Now, you'd say, you know, what's the point here? Well, the point is that this is probably an on-ramp towards bigger things. And this is where lots of work has been done also by other teams in the community to look at, for instance, what's next on the funding side. How can we also automate the funding? We now have an on-chain company with a real-world legal wrapper. Can we now also automate the funding? And I think it's going to be Luis from Aragon who's going to show us a little bit the solution that they have engineered there. There's also government stuff that you can start smart contractifying. So although we are only addressing at this stage the first mile problem of getting a real world wrapper around your project or even your smart contract, you can actually see this grow into a fully automated way of funding and governing your company. There's a lot of documentation on autocorp.autonomous.com for those who want to dig into some of the legal questions that this is throwing up. For instance, there is often questions on KYC. There's often questions on, is this actually a limited liability company? Do I have an actual company? So I'm more than happy to take any questions right now if we still have some time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your sharing. Do we have any questions from the audience? If you do have questions, please raise your hand. Yes, and the gentleman at the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually not a question, but more of a testament, because I started a company on Autonomous about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So thank you. It was amazing.
Okay, great.
It was registered in
Give a round of
Singapore.
applause.
Yeah.
So we've been around, and as I was saying, I do this more for the love of God and the crypto community. We've set up a lot of very visible names. We don't name clients, but I think a lot of the bigger names in the community have set up companies with us. So we're kind of a sad bunch in that we just love this puzzling out the jurisdictions and what works better for our clients. It's really as a result of this work that we got to the frustration of, my goodness, does this always have to be so analog? And we think that you can actually compress it in time and cost, and that give it another couple of years and we're going to see companies being spun up directly on chain, but still with that requirement, because that's not going to go away. If you want limited liability, you're going to have that real world wrapper. And anybody who does stuff here with smart contracts and so on, I'd like to maybe put one note of caution, is that you do want to have a company eventually to do this in, because otherwise your effort may be seen as unlimitedly liable for whatever could go wrong. And so that's just a reason why you want to quickly even wrap a single smart contract into a limited liability company, for instance. Thanks for the testimony.
Thank you very much.
That's the kind of questions we like to receive, by the way. Anybody else? Yes, please. Okay, can you say that again?
For example, if you register LLC in Delaware,
Yeah.
you should get a tax ID, right?
Well, actually, it's a very good point you raised. You don't. At least you don't to get the birth certificate for your company. To get your company incorporated, you don't need a tax ID. And this is why we actually do love the United States, because there is no KYC involved whatsoever when you set up a company, in contrast with a lot of countries. For instance, in Europe, you need to have a notary involved, which is a total pain, right? But the notary is effectively that sort of person who needs to check on who you are. In Singapore, in Hong Kong, you need to basically disclose who you are with attested documents that you are who you are before you can incorporate. In the United States, because of tradition and what have you, you basically have to declare who you are. You could actually incorporate a company in the United States saying that you're Mickey Mouse. You can. There's no check whatsoever on your identity, which is why this works in the United States, and we believe it's going to work in some other places outside as well. Only at the point that you start doing real-world stuff, for instance, opening a bank account, will you be asked by the system to attest to your real-world personality. So we are perfectly fine to have you spin up a company where the owner is effectively a wallet address, the public address, of your wallet.
Yes, actually, my question is the company's tax ID,
Mm-hmm.
like EIN. So
Yeah.
you don't.
You don't need it at the moment of inception, of incorporation, but later down the line, if you want to open a bank account, you want to start hiring employees, you want to build it as a real operational entity, you will need a tax ID in the United States.
Oh, okay, thank you.
By the way, just on this, anybody who wants a tax-optimized vehicle and is not from the United States or lives in the United States should have a good look at the LLC, because it's actually very good from a tax perspective. But you can come and see me afterwards if you want to hear more.
Lovely. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Raise your hand
Nobody
if
else?
you have any questions. No?
Good stuff.
Would you like to try your demo again?
I can try again. Maybe I just close my browser and do it all over again. 1 second. We still have some time.
那接下来呢，我们的下一个议程呢，会是在2:55开始。那现在呢，我们请讲者再开一下刚刚他还没有完成的 demo， 看看我们的 internet connection 有没有好一点。那我们的下一个议程呢，会是比较像是一个 panel discussion， 一个座谈会。我们要讨论的是怎么样子建立一个开发者社群，有什么样的挑战跟经验的分享。
Okay, so let's see if this works now. So we're spinning up water bottle again. We're connecting our MetaMask. I close the browser. I may have to enter my password for my MetaMask. I should look at my developer here in the room, so I can blame somebody for this. Okay, let me do this now. Nope. Maybe there's something
Oh, what a shame.
that. Yes, it is actually. Yeah, it keeps on doing the same loop. But anyhow, we'll see if we can demo to anybody who wants to see it live offline outside. But thanks very much for your attention. Appreciate it.
那我们再谢谢汉。